Hello, everyone. Welcome back, My English Podcast. I'm Blake, and today we're going to dive into a story that will help you learn English in a natural, fun way. This is for advanced learners, so get ready to listen carefully, think, and enjoy the story. Remember, the goal is not just to understand the words, but to feel the language as it happens. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Daniel. Daniel loved reading books and learning new things. He had a small habit that made him different from his friends. He always wrote down interesting words and ideas in a notebook. Every morning, he would wake up early, drink his coffee, and read for an hour. He believed that small daily actions could change his life. One day, Daniel found a very old book in a library. It looked very ordinary on the outside, but when he opened it, he realized it was full of short stories and lessons about life. The stories were simple, but each one carried a deep message. Daniel decided to read one story every day and write down what he learned. He noticed that his English was improving without effort. The words started to feel natural in his mind. The first story was about patience. It told the tale of a farmer who planted seeds in a field. He watered the seeds every day, but nothing happened for weeks. Then, one day, sprouts appeared, and eventually the crops grew tall and healthy. Daniel understood that learning a language is very similar. You have to practice consistently, even if you don't see results immediately. The next story was about courage. It was about a young girl named Maria who wanted to climb a mountain. At first, she was scared. She thought she would fail or get lost. But she took one small step at a time. She learned to trust herself. By the end of the story, Maria reached the top and looked at the view, realizing her effort was worth it. Daniel felt inspired. He thought about his English journey. Every conversation he tried, every article he read, and every word he wrote was like a step up that mountain. Daniel's favorite story was about curiosity. It described a boy who discovered a hidden garden behind an old wall. He had never seen this place before. There were rare flowers, birds, and even a small pond with fish. The boy explored every corner and asked questions about everything he saw. Daniel realized that learning English works the same way. If you explore new words, ask questions, and try to use them, your understanding grows naturally. After weeks of reading these stories, Daniel started noticing changes. He could follow English podcasts more easily, he could express his thoughts clearly, and even complex grammar felt simpler. But the most important change was in his confidence. He realized that learning English is not about memorizing rules, it's about experiencing the language, just like living a story. One evening, Daniel wrote a note in his notebook. Learning is like a story. Every day is a page. Some days are exciting, some days are hard, but every page is important. He understood that every mistake he made, every word he forgot, and every sentence he struggled with was part of his story. And stories, after all, are meant to be lived, not just read. Daniel wanted to share this idea with others. He started meeting friends who wanted to improve their English. He told them about the book and the small habits that helped him. He encouraged them to read, write, and explore English through stories, even if it was just for 10 minutes every day. He said, "Don't try to learn everything at once. Enjoy the journey. Notice the words, feel them, and let them become part of you." As Daniel continued his journey, he realized that learning English had changed more than just his language skills. It had made him more patient, more curious, and more confident. He started thinking in English naturally, without translating in his head. Conversations felt like storytelling, and every interaction became an opportunity to learn and grow. By the time Daniel finished the old book, he had filled his notebook with notes, reflections, and new words. But he didn't stop there. He knew that stories never truly end. They continue as long as we keep exploring. And he understood that learning English is exactly the same. It's a story you live every day, with small steps, curiosity, and patience. And so, Daniel's journey continues. Every morning, he reads, writes, and explores. Every conversation in English is a new chapter. He learns from mistakes, celebrates progress, and enjoys the process. And he wants you to do the same. Think of your English learning as a story. You are the main character, and every action, every word, every effort counts toward the story of your success. This story reminds us that learning a language is not about perfection. It's about engagement, curiosity, and persistence. You don't need to rush. You don't need to be perfect. Just like Daniel, if you approach English as a story, it becomes easier, more enjoyable, and deeply rewarding. And the best part? Stories can be shared. You can read them aloud, discuss them, or even create your own. By turning English learning into a daily story, you practice listening, speaking, reading, and thinking in a natural way. You start noticing patterns, understanding expressions, and connecting ideas without effort. So, listen carefully. Imagine the scenes, feel the emotions of the characters, and try to predict what will happen next. This active listening and thinking will make your English stronger. You'll not only understand the language better, but also enjoy it more. The journey of learning English through stories is endless, and every listener can create their own adventure. A few months after Daniel had filled most of his notebook with notes and reflections, he faced a challenge he had not expected. He had always studied English alone, through books, stories, and podcasts, and while his listening and reading had improved significantly, he realized that speaking English in real-life situations was a completely different experience. One day, Daniel received an invitation to a local English-speaking club in his city. The club was filled with people from different countries, all practicing English together. At first, Daniel felt nervous. He wondered if he would understand everything, if he could express himself clearly, and if others would notice his mistakes. His confidence was strong in private, but public speaking felt intimidating. On the first day, Daniel arrived early. The room was cozy, with chairs arranged in a circle and bookshelves along the walls. People were chatting, laughing, and sharing stories. Daniel smiled politely, but inside he felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The host of the club, a friendly woman named Emma, greeted him warmly. She explained that the club encouraged everyone to speak freely, make mistakes, and learn together. Daniel's first exercise was simple. Introduce yourself and share something interesting about your week. He took a deep breath and started talking about his notebook and the old book he had been reading. At first, his words felt slow, and he paused several times to find the right expressions. But as he continued, he noticed something important. People were listening, nodding, and responding positively. They didn't correct him harshly. They encouraged him gently. This experience taught Daniel a crucial lesson. Speaking English confidently is not about being perfect. It's about expressing ideas, even if you make mistakes. The fear of making errors often stops learners from practicing, but real learning happens when you try, fail, and adjust. Daniel realized that his listening skills, built through stories, now gave him an advantage. He could follow conversations, understand context, and respond naturally, even when he didn't know every single word. The next activity at the club was a storytelling game. Each participant had to continue a story from where the previous person left off. Daniel listened carefully as a woman named Sophia began with a story about a mysterious old clock found in an attic. When it was his turn, Daniel added details about a secret message hidden in the clock. His sentences were simple at first, but as he focused on the story, he found himself speaking more fluently. The group laughed and encouraged him, making the experience enjoyable and supportive. After the club session, Daniel walked home reflecting on his progress. He realized that the key to learning English effectively is a combination of preparation and experience. His preparation through reading, listening, and writing had built a strong foundation. Now, real-life conversation was helping him connect the dots, reinforcing his knowledge in a practical, memorable way. Over the next few weeks, Daniel attended the club regularly. Each time he tried new strategies to improve his speaking. He started keeping a small conversation journal, writing down new phrases he heard, expressions he liked, and questions he wanted to ask. Before each session, he reviewed his notes and practiced speaking aloud. Slowly, his fluency improved and his hesitation decreased. One day, the club organized a debate. The topic was about whether technology makes life better or worse. Daniel was nervous because debating requires quick thinking and persuasive language. He remembered a story from his old book about a boy who solved problems by asking questions and staying calm. Inspired by this, Daniel approached the debate like a story. He presented his ideas step by step, supported them with examples, and listened carefully to others before responding. During the debate, Daniel noticed something remarkable. His mind was thinking in English naturally. He didn't translate from his native language. He could find words, connect ideas, and speak confidently. When someone asked him a question he didn't know the answer to, he stayed calm, explained what he understood, and added his own thoughts. His clarity and confidence impressed not only the other participants, but also himself. This experience reinforced a deeper truth. Learning English is not just about grammar rules or vocabulary lists. It's about experiencing the language in meaningful ways. Stories had taught Daniel patience, curiosity, and courage. Now, conversations, debates, and real-life interactions were teaching him adaptability, spontaneity, and confidence. Together, these experiences were shaping him into a confident English speaker. One weekend, Daniel decided to take his learning even further. He joined an online English discussion group with participants from multiple countries. The format was casual, with everyone sharing personal experiences, favorite books, travel stories, and cultural insights. At first, the accents and speech speed were challenging. People spoke quickly, used slang, and sometimes overlapped in conversation. Daniel felt slightly overwhelmed, but he remembered a story about a sailor navigating a storm. Stay calm, observe, and adjust. Applying this mindset, Daniel started to listen actively. He focused on context, intonation, and key words. If he didn't understand something, he noted it down to look up later. Gradually, he began joining discussions, asking questions, and sharing his own experiences. The more he participated, the more natural English became. He started predicting phrases, understanding humor, and even enjoying small misunderstandings as learning moments. Daniel's growth was not linear. Some days were frustrating. He forgot words, mispronounced phrases, or struggled to follow fast speech. But he realized that these challenges were part of the story of learning. Just like the characters in his old book, perseverance and curiosity were more important than immediate perfection. Each mistake was an opportunity to improve. One evening, after an intense discussion about cultural differences in communication styles, Daniel reflected on his journey. He realized he had achieved something important. He could now think in English, not just translate it. Stories had taught him to notice details, understand perspectives, and empathize with characters. Conversations and debates had trained him to respond quickly, adapt ideas, and express opinions naturally. Together, these experiences had transformed his learning. Daniel started combining his methods into a structured daily routine. Mornings were for reading stories and writing reflections. Afternoons were for listening to podcasts, news, or interviews. Evenings were for speaking practice, through clubs, online groups, or speaking aloud to himself. Each activity reinforced the others. Reading improved. Listening enhanced speaking, and speaking clarified understanding when writing. In addition, Daniel began experimenting with different types of stories and conversations. He explored news articles, short novels, biographies, and even dialogues from movies. Each format provided new vocabulary, sentence structures, and expressions. He discovered that immersion in diverse content trains the brain to recognize patterns, anticipate meaning, and understand context more efficiently. Daniel also started recording himself speaking. At first, listening to his own voice felt strange. He noticed pronunciation mistakes, awkward pauses, and unclear intonation. But instead of feeling discouraged, he treated it as data for improvement. He listened carefully, repeated sentences, and gradually noticed progress. This method helped him become aware of subtle errors that textbooks often don't address. Another breakthrough came when Daniel tried storytelling in English. He retold stories from his notebook, adding personal experiences, opinions, and reflections. Speaking this way required him to organize thoughts clearly, use transitions, and engage listeners. Over time, he noticed that his sentences became longer, ideas more connected, and vocabulary more flexible. Storytelling became both a practice tool and a source of confidence. Daniel's story teaches an important lesson for all advanced learners. Learning English is not just about studying, it's about living the language. Stories, conversations, challenges, reflections, and small daily habits create a continuous cycle of improvement. Each experience, whether easy or difficult, contributes to fluency, comprehension, and confidence. By embracing this approach, learners can achieve natural, effortless English. They move from translating mentally to thinking directly in English. They can handle complex conversations, express nuanced ideas, and engage in discussions without fear. Mistakes are no longer obstacles, they are stepping stones. As Daniel's journey continues, he keeps exploring new ways to enhance his English. He attends workshops, watches interviews, reads novels, and interacts with native speakers. Each day adds a new page to his story. He realizes that learning English is a lifelong adventure, and the process itself is just as rewarding as any goal. Daniel's approach combines three essential elements: patience, curiosity, and active engagement. Patience helps learners persist through challenges and mistakes. Curiosity motivates exploration of new words, phrases, and ideas. Active engagement, through speaking, writing, and listening, ensures practical application of knowledge. Together, these elements create a strong foundation for advanced English learning. Finally, Daniel reflects on what has helped him most, viewing English as a living story. Every conversation, every article, every podcast is a chapter. Every interaction is a plot twist. Every mistake is a lesson. And just like a good story, the process is more important than perfection. This story reminds us that advanced English learning is dynamic. It requires consistent effort, active listening, thoughtful speaking, and continuous curiosity. By turning language practice into a story, learners internalize vocabulary, grammar, and expressions naturally. They develop confidence, adaptability, and joy in communication. So, if you are listening to this episode, imagine your own English journey as a story. Think of yourself as the main character, exploring new ideas, facing challenges, making mistakes, and growing every day. Use stories, conversations, recordings, and reflections as tools to strengthen your skills. Celebrate small victories, learn from challenges, and enjoy the process. Remember, just like Daniel, your English story continues every day. Each small step adds to your fluency. Each new experience enriches your understanding, and each effort brings you closer to thinking and speaking naturally in English. A few weeks after Daniel had gained more confidence in his speaking, he was faced with a challenge that would push his English skills to a new level. One afternoon, he received an unexpected invitation from his university. They were hosting an international seminar on culture, technology, and communication, and Daniel was asked to give a short talk about how learning English through stories had helped him. At first, Daniel felt nervous. Speaking in front of a large audience, including native English speakers and advanced learners, was very different from the comfortable environment of his club or online group. His mind raced with questions. Would they understand him? Would he make mistakes? Could he express his ideas clearly under pressure? Despite his preparation, the thought of speaking publicly made his heart pound. To prepare, Daniel returned to his notebook. He reviewed stories he had read, lessons he had learned, and reflections he had written. He also practiced out loud, recording himself to notice pronunciation, intonation, and clarity. Each day, he rehearsed for at least 30 minutes. imagining the audience and practicing responses to possible questions. Through this repetition, he began to feel more confident, realizing that preparation reduces fear and builds fluency. The day of the seminar arrived. Daniel wore a neat shirt and carried his notebook for reference. As he entered the lecture hall, he noticed rows of chairs filled with students, professors, and visitors. The room buzzed with conversation in English, some accents fast, some slow, and some unfamiliar. Daniel felt a surge of anxiety but reminded himself, "This is an opportunity, not a test." He took a deep breath, focused on the first story he would tell, and walked toward the podium. When Daniel started speaking, his voice was slightly shaky at first, but he quickly found rhythm. He began with a personal story, how he had struggled with English in the beginning, and how reading small stories every day had changed his perspective. He explained how each story taught him patience, curiosity, and courage, and how these lessons applied to real-life English conversations. As he spoke, he noticed the audience nodding and smiling. Their attention encouraged him to continue. Then, Daniel shared a story from his notebook about Maria, the girl who climbed the mountain. He described her fears, her small steps, and her ultimate triumph. He emphasized that language learning is like climbing a mountain. Progress comes slowly, but every step matters. While telling the story, Daniel focused on clear pronunciation, natural pauses, and expressive intonation, making the story engaging for listeners. After finishing the story, Daniel explained practical strategies he had used to improve English. He mentioned active listening, repeating sentences aloud, using new vocabulary in different contexts, and recording oneself to notice mistakes. He emphasized the importance of speaking in real situations, even when uncomfortable, and learning from feedback. Daniel noticed that giving advice in English not only reinforced his own skills, but also made him feel confident and capable. The seminar included a Q&A session. The first question was about motivation. A student asked, "How do you stay motivated when progress feels slow?" Daniel smiled and shared an insight from one of his favorite stories. Even when the farmer saw no growth in his field for weeks, he kept watering the seeds. Learning English works the same way. Consistency matters more than speed. Celebrate small victories. They add up over time. Another participant asked about vocabulary. "How do you remember so many new words?" Daniel explained his notebook method. Write down interesting words, review them daily, and use them in sentences or short stories. "It's not about memorizing lists," he said. "It's about using words in context. When you feel the meaning and connection of words, they become natural." A third question came from a native speaker. "How did you overcome fear of speaking in public?" Daniel paused, thinking of his first club session. "I realized fear comes from worrying about mistakes. When I focused on expressing ideas rather than being perfect, I became more confident." Mistakes are part of the learning process. They are not failures, they are steps forward. As the seminar continued, Daniel was invited to participate in a discussion panel about cross-cultural communication. He joined a group of international students, sharing ideas about differences in communication styles, understanding accents, and cultural nuances. At first, he felt slightly nervous as people spoke quickly and used expressions he hadn't encountered before. But he listened carefully, focused on key words and context, and responded thoughtfully. During the discussion, a question arose about humor in English. Daniel explained how English humor often relies on wordplay, idioms, or cultural references. He gave an example from a story in his notebook and described how he had learned to understand jokes by listening, observing reactions, and asking questions. The audience appreciated the practical insight, and several participants shared their own experiences with humor in English. By the end of the seminar, Daniel noticed a remarkable change in himself. His confidence had grown significantly, not because he was perfect, but because he had engaged fully with the language. He realized that speaking in high-pressure situations was less about flawless grammar and more about preparation, observation, and adaptability. He also noticed that immersion, through stories, conversation, and interaction, had strengthened his intuition for English, allowing him to think and respond naturally. After the seminar, several attendees approached Daniel to ask questions about his methods. He spoke about reading daily, keeping a notebook, recording conversations, practicing storytelling, and actively engaging with native speakers. He emphasized the value of reflection, reviewing what you've learned, identifying patterns, and adjusting your approach. The conversations were stimulating, and Daniel enjoyed the opportunity to help others while practicing his own English further. That evening, Daniel reflected on the day's experience. He realized that challenges, even intimidating ones, are essential for growth. Every seminar, debate, or real-life interaction adds depth to language learning. Stories provide context and motivation, but real conversation provides application and feedback. Together, they create a comprehensive, dynamic learning process. Over the next month, Daniel applied lessons from the seminar to his daily routine. He experimented with storytelling in meetings, casual chats, and online discussions. He observed native speakers, imitated intonation patterns, and adjusted his expressions to sound natural. He also expanded his reading material to include news articles, essays, and podcasts, connecting what he learned in stories with real-life vocabulary and situations. Daniel also began mentoring others in his English club. He encouraged new learners to view mistakes as part of the story, to practice speaking in supportive environments, and to use stories for vocabulary, grammar, and fluency. He emphasized patience, persistence, and curiosity. Daniel realized that teaching others also reinforced his own learning, because explaining ideas required him to organize thoughts clearly, choose precise words, and speak confidently. One notable breakthrough came when Daniel joined an online international discussion about current events. Participants used complex language, idiomatic expressions, and cultural references. Daniel initially felt overwhelmed, but he focused on active listening. He paid attention to context, keywords, and sentence structure. Gradually, he joined conversations, asked questions, and expressed opinions clearly. By the end of the session, he was surprised at how naturally English flowed in a challenging, fast-paced environment. Daniel's daily practice also evolved. Mornings remained dedicated to stories, reading, and reflections. Afternoons included listening to podcasts, interviews, and speeches. Evenings were for speaking practice, through clubs, online discussions, and storytelling exercises. Recording himself remained a key strategy, helping him notice subtle improvements in pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. Another important aspect of Daniel's journey was thinking creatively in English. Instead of translating from his native language, he started imagining scenes, dialogues, and ideas directly in English. When reading a story, he visualized characters, actions, and emotions. When speaking, he formed sentences as he thought, which reduced hesitation and made his English sound natural. This skill allowed him to handle complex topics, express nuanced ideas, and engage confidently with both native and non-native speakers. Daniel also discovered that advanced listening skills require more than vocabulary knowledge. He practiced recognizing implied meaning, tone, and speaker intention. He noticed how native speakers use stress, intonation, and pauses to convey emotion and emphasis. By actively analyzing these patterns while listening to podcasts, videos, and discussions, he developed a deeper understanding of spoken English and became more confident in conversations. Throughout this journey, Daniel maintained a simple philosophy. Learning English is a story, and every day is a new chapter. Some days are challenging, some exciting, some frustrating, but every experience contributes to progress. Stories teach patience and curiosity. Conversations teach application and confidence. And reflection teaches insight and growth. One evening, after a long day of discussions, reading, and writing, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "English is no longer just a subject I study. It is a part of my daily life, my thinking, and my expression. Each story I read, each conversation I join, and each challenge I face strengthens my skills. I am not chasing perfection. I am living the language, learning through experience. Daniel's approach emphasizes that advanced learners can achieve fluency through structured, consistent practice combined with real-life application. Reading, listening, speaking, and reflection work best when integrated. Stories provide meaning, motivation, and context, while interactive experiences test understanding, enhance adaptability, and build confidence. By continuing to engage in diverse conversations, tackle challenging situations, and reflect on experiences, learners like Daniel strengthen their English naturally. Mistakes become lessons, difficulties become opportunities, and progress becomes visible through consistent effort. The combination of preparation, practice, and reflection creates a cycle of improvement that is both effective and enjoyable. Daniel's journey demonstrates that advanced English learning is not about speed or perfection. It is about persistence, curiosity, and active engagement. Each story, discussion, and reflection enriches understanding. Each small step adds depth, fluency, and confidence. And by approaching English as a living story, learners experience joy, growth, and transformation in their language journey. A few months later, Daniel had grown more confident in his English skills, both in private practice and public speaking. He had been invited by a friend to attend a short study program abroad. The program was designed for international students, with lectures, discussions, and group projects all conducted in English. Daniel was excited, but he also knew this experience would test his abilities in new ways. From the first day, Daniel noticed the difference between classroom English and real-life English abroad. People spoke quickly, used idioms and slang, and sometimes referenced cultural ideas he was not familiar with. At first, he found it challenging to follow. During one group discussion about environmental issues, a native speaker used the phrase "beat around the bush." Daniel froze for a moment, but then remembered a story from his notebook about curiosity. He asked politely, "Could you explain what that means?" The person smiled and clarified. Daniel realized that asking questions when unsure was not a weakness. It was part of learning. During his first week, Daniel was assigned to a project team with students from different countries. The project required presenting a solution for a local community problem. Each student had to contribute ideas and participate in discussions. At first, Daniel hesitated to speak, worried about grammar mistakes and pronunciation. But he reminded himself of a lesson from the old book he had read. Courage grows when you take action, even when you feel uncertain. In one team meeting, Daniel suggested an idea about sustainable gardening. He used simple sentences at first, carefully choosing words he was comfortable with. His teammates listened and built on his ideas. When they suggested changes, Daniel learned to accept feedback gracefully and adapt his language to clarify his points. By the end of the meeting, he realized that the interaction had taught him more about natural English than weeks of private study. One evening, Daniel went to a cafe near the campus. He overheard a conversation between two local students discussing a recent political event. They spoke rapidly, using idioms, humor, and references he did not fully understand. Instead of feeling discouraged, Daniel listened actively, trying to catch keywords and infer meaning from context. Later, he asked one of the students politely to explain some phrases. This approach reinforced a key skill he had learned. Advanced listening is not about understanding every word. It's about grasping the message and asking questions when necessary. During the second week, Daniel encountered a situation that tested both his language and cultural understanding. He was invited to a social gathering with international students. The conversation was casual, fast-paced, and full of jokes and slang. At one point, a student made a sarcastic comment, and Daniel was unsure if it was meant humorously or seriously. For a moment, he felt confused and hesitant to respond. Then he remembered a story about Maria climbing the mountain. Focus, observe, and adapt. Daniel smiled politely and asked, Could you explain that joke? The group laughed warmly and explained. Daniel realized that cultural understanding is as important as language skills for effective communication. Daniel also noticed the power of nonverbal cues. Facial expressions, gestures, and tone of voice often conveyed meaning more clearly than words alone. By observing carefully, he could understand subtle emotions and intentions, even when vocabulary was unfamiliar. This skill, combined with his listening and speaking practice, allowed him to participate more confidently in discussions. One day, during a group presentation, Daniel had to speak about his own experience learning English through stories. He felt nervous because he was presenting to a mixed audience, including native speakers. Before speaking, he took a deep breath and visualized the characters from his notebook. He imagined telling the story to a friend in a natural, engaging way. This visualization technique helped him stay calm and focused. When it was his turn, Daniel began by sharing the story of the farmer who patiently tended his crops. He explained how consistent daily practice helped him improve English. He then shared the story of Maria climbing the mountain, emphasizing the importance of courage and taking small steps. The audience responded positively, nodding and smiling, showing that stories could transcend cultural boundaries. During the Q&A session, a student asked Daniel how he handled moments when he didn't understand a fast speaker. Daniel replied, "I focus on keywords, context, and gestures. If I still don't understand, I ask politely. It's better to ask than to stay confused. Over time, you start understanding more naturally." This answer prompted discussion about active listening strategies, and Daniel realized how much he had learned about adaptive communication. In addition to speaking and listening, Daniel continued reading and writing every day. He explored articles, short stories, and essays about local culture and global issues. By writing reflections and summaries, he reinforced vocabulary and grammar in meaningful contexts. He also started using advanced expressions he had noticed in conversations, gradually making his language more natural and precise. A particularly challenging day came when Daniel had to attend a seminar on technology and innovation. The speaker used fast-paced English, technical vocabulary, and idiomatic expressions. At first, Daniel struggled to follow, but he applied active listening skills. He focused on the main ideas, identified repeated patterns, and noted unfamiliar words for later review. By the end, he was able to summarize the key points accurately and even contribute to the discussion with his own ideas. Daniel noticed that his confidence grew more when he engaged in spontaneous conversations rather than prepared speeches. For example, walking through campus, he struck up a conversation with a student about a documentary he had watched. At first, he hesitated, choosing words carefully. But as the conversation continued, he relaxed and spoke more fluidly, responding naturally to questions and comments. By the time the conversation ended, he felt a sense of accomplishment. Real-life interaction was the ultimate test of language skills. During group dinners, Daniel observed humor, informal expressions, and cultural references in English. He noticed that native speakers often use contractions, phrasal verbs, and casual sentence structures. By imitating these patterns, Daniel gradually made his spoken English sound more natural. He also learned to balance formality and informality depending on context, an essential skill for advanced learners. At the end of the second week, Daniel reflected on his experience abroad. He realized that immersion accelerated his learning more than solitary study alone. Stories and notes had provided a foundation, but real-life conversations, cultural exposure, and social interaction had strengthened his fluency, comprehension, and confidence. Each challenge he faced, fast speech, unfamiliar slang, cultural differences, became an opportunity for growth. Daniel also recognized the value of resilience. Some days were difficult. He mispronounced words, forgot vocabulary, or misunderstood idioms. Instead of feeling discouraged, he treated these moments as learning experiences. Mistakes were feedback, not failure. This mindset, combined with curiosity and persistence, allowed him to embrace challenges rather than avoid them. To reinforce his learning, Daniel continued keeping a journal. He noted new phrases, idioms, and cultural insights from conversations abroad. He also reflected on strategies that worked: active listening, asking questions, visualization, and storytelling. Over time, reviewing his notes helped him connect new knowledge with existing understanding, strengthening retention and application. Daniel's story illustrates that advanced English learning requires integration of multiple skills. Reading, writing, listening, and speaking complement each other. Preparation and reflection provide structure, while real-life interaction tests and strengthen skills. Stories, personal experiences, and cultural exposure create meaningful contexts that make language memorable and practical. By the end of the program abroad, Daniel had experienced a breakthrough. He could follow fast conversations, understand idiomatic expressions, respond spontaneously, and explain complex ideas clearly. His thinking in English had become automatic in many situations. More importantly, he had learned how to adapt language to different audiences, contexts, and cultures, a key skill for advanced proficiency. Daniel continued to practice daily, combining structured learning with immersion. Mornings were for reading and writing, afternoons for listening and reflection, evenings for conversation, storytelling, and cultural engagement. Recording himself remained a vital tool, helping him refine pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. Each element reinforced the others, creating a cycle of continuous improvement. A significant realization came when Daniel started helping newer students adapt to the English environment abroad. He shared strategies for listening to fast speech, understanding idioms, participating in discussions, and overcoming fear of mistakes. Teaching reinforced his own skills, because explaining ideas required precision, clarity, and confidence. Daniel also experimented with thinking creatively in English. He imagined scenarios, dialogues, and outcomes in English first, rather than translating from his native language. This allowed him to form sentences quickly, respond naturally, and engage in complex discussions. Thinking directly in English became one of the most powerful tools in his learning journey. During the final week of the program, Daniel faced a culminating challenge: presenting a group project to faculty and peers. The presentation involved explaining ideas clearly, answering questions spontaneously, and handling feedback politely. Daniel approached it with calm confidence, drawing on every lesson he had learned: active listening, visualization, storytelling, adaptability, and reflection. The presentation was a success. Daniel spoke clearly, responded thoughtfully, and engaged the audience naturally. He noticed a sense of pride, not because he was perfect, but because he had applied his knowledge effectively in a real situation. He realized that advanced learning is about integration, combining preparation, practice, reflection, and real-life use to achieve fluency and confidence. Reflecting on the entire experience abroad, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Learning English is a journey, not a destination. Every story, conversation, and challenge adds to my ability to communicate. Mistakes are lessons. Challenges are opportunities. Curiosity and persistence are my guides. Each day, I grow closer to thinking and speaking naturally in English." Daniel's story demonstrates that advanced English learners can achieve fluency by combining structured practice with real-life application. Stories provide foundation, conversations provide context, reflection provides insight, and immersion provides growth. Mistakes and challenges are part of the process, not obstacles. By embracing this approach, learners develop natural fluency, cultural understanding, and confidence. They learn to think in English, respond spontaneously, and express complex ideas clearly. Learning becomes meaningful, practical, and enjoyable. Daniel's experience shows that advanced English is not just a skill. It is a living, evolving part of daily life, shaped by stories, interactions, and persistence. After returning from his study program abroad, Daniel felt more confident than ever. But he also realized that real-life challenges would continue to test his English skills. A few weeks later, he was offered an opportunity to join a small international team for a local community project. The project involved organizing a cultural festival that would bring together people from different countries. Daniel knew this experience would demand speaking, listening, and problem-solving in English under pressure. On the first day of the project, Daniel met his team. There were students from 5 different countries, each with their own accent, expressions, and ideas. The group quickly started discussing tasks, marketing, logistics, entertainment, and guest coordination. Daniel noticed that communication moved quickly, and sometimes multiple people spoke at once. At first, he felt a little overwhelmed, but he reminded himself of a story he had read about the boy who discovered a hidden garden. Curiosity and observation could help him understand what was happening. Daniel decided to take notes during meetings, writing down key ideas, vocabulary, and action points. He realized that written notes helped him process fast conversations and organize his thoughts. During discussions, he practiced active listening, paying attention to tone, gestures, and context. When he didn't understand a phrase, he asked politely for clarification. This approach not only helped him comprehend the conversation, but also built rapport with his teammates, who appreciated his careful attention. The first challenge came when the team had to negotiate with local vendors for supplies. Daniel was nervous because this required speaking directly in English to professionals with varying accents and fast speech. He remembered a story from his notebook about Maria climbing the mountain. Small steps and preparation can overcome fear. Daniel prepared by reviewing key phrases for negotiation, polite expressions, and potential questions. He also visualized the conversation, imagining possible responses and scenarios. During the negotiation, Daniel started by introducing himself clearly and stating the project's purpose. At first, he spoke slowly, carefully choosing words. The vendor asked several questions quickly, using idiomatic expressions. Daniel focused on key words, repeated information when necessary, and asked polite clarifying questions. Gradually, he gained confidence. By the end of the negotiation, he successfully secured the supplies, and the vendor even complimented his clear communication. Daniel realized that preparation, observation, and patience were essential for handling real-life challenges. Back with the team, Daniel shared the outcome of the negotiation. His teammates were impressed and encouraged him to take more active roles in the project. He started contributing ideas more freely, suggesting solutions for scheduling, coordinating volunteers, and managing unexpected issues. Each task required him to explain ideas clearly, listen to feedback, and respond spontaneously. These experiences helped him apply advanced English in practical, high-pressure situations. A particularly memorable challenge occurred when a misunderstanding arose between 2 team members from different countries. They disagreed about the layout of the festival venue. Daniel noticed the tension and decided to mediate. He listened carefully to both sides, asked clarifying questions, and summarized each person's concerns in clear English. Then, he suggested a compromise that incorporated elements from both ideas. By facilitating this conversation, Daniel realized the power of language in resolving conflicts, building trust, and creating solutions. As the festival approached, tasks became more complex. Daniel had to coordinate with volunteers, communicate schedules, and provide instructions for setup. Sometimes he encountered students who spoke quickly or used slang he wasn't familiar with. He applied strategies he had learned abroad. Focus on context, keywords, and body language. Ask questions politely, and repeat information to confirm understanding. Over time, he found it easier to follow conversations and contribute effectively. One day, while managing a team of volunteers, Daniel faced an unexpected challenge. A group arrived late, and the equipment needed for setup was delayed. He had to think quickly and communicate solutions in English. Daniel calmly explained the situation to the volunteers, delegated tasks clearly, and negotiated with another supplier to bring the missing equipment faster. By remaining composed and using English strategically, he managed the crisis successfully. He noticed that fluency was not only about speaking perfectly, it was about clarity, adaptability, and problem solving. During the festival, Daniel also had to present announcements to attendees in English. The audience included local residents, international guests, and students. Initially, speaking in front of such a diverse crowd was intimidating, but he remembered lessons from his notebook. Speak slowly, use simple sentences when needed, and engage the audience with stories or examples. He began by sharing the festival's purpose, thanking volunteers, and introducing events. The audience responded warmly, and Daniel felt a deep sense of accomplishment. After the festival, Daniel reflected on his experience. He realized that advanced English learning is not limited to study materials or structured practice. It thrives in real-world application. Each challenge, negotiation, and interaction had strengthened his skills. He had applied listening strategies, storytelling techniques, negotiation phrases, and cultural awareness, all while thinking on his feet. Daniel also noticed that collaboration enhanced learning. Working in a multicultural team exposed him to different accents, idiomatic expressions, and cultural norms. By observing, asking questions, and participating actively, he internalized language patterns that textbooks rarely cover. He also learned to adapt his speech, tone, and word choice based on the audience, a critical skill for advanced learners. To continue his growth, Daniel kept a detailed reflection journal. He wrote about challenges faced, strategies used, new vocabulary, and cultural insights. He also analyzed his own communication style, noting areas for improvement. This habit reinforced learning, created a record of progress, and provided a roadmap for future development. Another lesson came from observing successful communicators during the festival. They spoke clearly, paused strategically, emphasized key points, and engaged listeners with stories and examples. Daniel practiced these techniques, incorporating them into his own speaking style. Over time, his English became not only fluent but also expressive and engaging. Daniel also started mentoring new team members in English communication. He taught them strategies for listening actively, asking questions, and participating confidently. Explaining these methods reinforced his own skills, as teaching requires clear organization of thoughts, precise language, and awareness of others' understanding. Mentoring became both a learning opportunity and a way to give back. Throughout the festival, Daniel noticed the importance of resilience. Some conversations were difficult, some negotiations did not go as planned, and some instructions were misunderstood. Instead of frustration, he treated these moments as learning opportunities. He observed, reflected, adapted, and tried again. Each challenge contributed to his growth, reinforcing that advanced English learning is a continuous process. Daniel's experience also highlighted the interplay between language and culture. Understanding local customs, etiquette, humor, and communication styles was essential for effective interaction. Language skills alone were not sufficient. Cultural awareness ensured clarity, respect, and successful collaboration. Advanced learners benefit from observing, asking questions, and reflecting on these nuances. During breaks, Daniel engaged in informal conversations with attendees and volunteers. These chats included slang, jokes, and idiomatic expressions. At first, some phrases were unfamiliar, but he focused on context and asked questions when necessary. Over time, he began using these expressions himself, integrating them naturally into his speech. This immersion strengthened both listening comprehension and spoken fluency. After the festival, Daniel evaluated his progress. He noticed remarkable improvements in comprehension, fluency, confidence, and adaptability. He had handled negotiations, mediated conflicts, given presentations, led teams, and engaged with diverse audiences, all in English. These experiences had accelerated learning far beyond what solo study or passive listening could achieve. Daniel also reflected on his mindset. Curiosity, patience, and persistence had been his guides. He embraced mistakes as learning moments, challenges as opportunities, and interactions as practice. This positive, proactive approach transformed his learning into a dynamic, enjoyable, and effective process. To maintain growth, Daniel continued integrating structured practice with real-life application. Mornings included reading stories, articles, and reflections. Afternoons involved listening to podcasts, interviews, and discussions. Evenings focused on speaking practice, mentoring, and participating in challenging conversations. Recording himself remained a key tool for monitoring pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. Daniel also experimented with thinking creatively in English. He visualized scenarios, imagined dialogues, and formed ideas directly in English. This reduced hesitation, enhanced spontaneity, and improved clarity. By combining creative thinking with reflection and practice, he strengthened advanced language skills holistically. During later team projects, Daniel continued applying these lessons. He led discussions, resolved conflicts, negotiated effectively, and communicated with diverse audiences. Each experience reinforced vocabulary, grammar, listening comprehension, and speaking fluency. Challenges were no longer obstacles. They were opportunities for growth, confidence, and mastery. Daniel's journey illustrates that advanced English learning is multifaceted. Reading, writing, listening, speaking, cultural awareness, reflection, and real-life application all contribute to mastery. Stories and preparation provide foundation. Conversations, immersion, and challenges provide application and growth. Mistakes and difficulties are essential as they create lessons that cannot be learned passively. By approaching English as a living story, Daniel internalized language patterns naturally. He could think, speak, and interact spontaneously with confidence and clarity. Each day added a new chapter to his learning journey, shaped by effort, curiosity, and engagement. Daniel also discovered that teaching others reinforced his mastery. Guiding teammates and new learners required precision, clarity, and reflection. Mentoring strengthened his ability to express ideas, explain strategies, and communicate effectively. He realized that teaching and learning are interconnected, especially at advanced levels. Finally, Daniel noticed the joy in language itself. Beyond grammar, vocabulary, and fluency, English became a tool for connection, creativity, and problem-solving. Each interaction, negotiation, and conversation was an opportunity to practice, grow, and experience the richness of the language. A few days after the festival, Daniel thought his challenges had settled, but life had another test ready for him. The local community center called unexpectedly. One of their scheduled speakers for an international youth event had canceled, and they asked Daniel to step in as a replacement. He had less than 24 hours to prepare a 20-minute talk and answer questions in front of a diverse audience. At first, he felt anxious. Public speaking under pressure was different from practicing in clubs or online discussions. Daniel reminded himself of lessons from past experiences. He had overcome fear through preparation, active listening, and visualization. He decided to approach this task as a story, just like he had done with his learning journal. He imagined the audience as characters in a story, thinking about what they would find interesting, engaging, and clear. This mindset calmed his nerves and gave him a framework for structuring his talk. He spent the evening organizing his ideas. The theme of the youth event was cultural exchange and communication. Daniel chose to tell a story from his study abroad experience, highlighting how learning English through stories, conversations, and real-life challenges helped him adapt to new environments. He structured his talk in 3 parts: introduction, main story, and key lessons. Each part included personal anecdotes, examples, and reflections. While preparing, Daniel also anticipated potential questions from the audience. He wrote down possible inquiries about language learning, cultural adaptation, mistakes he had made, and strategies for improvement. For each question, he practiced clear, concise responses. By doing this, he felt more prepared for spontaneous interaction. The next morning, Daniel arrived early at the community center. The room was buzzing with participants from different countries, speaking English with a variety of accents. Some were confident, some hesitant, and others were fluent but curious. The audience was diverse, and Daniel knew that clear, natural communication would be key to keeping their attention. When it was his turn, Daniel started by greeting everyone politely and introducing himself. He began his story slowly, describing how he initially struggled with English and how reading and listening to stories helped him build a foundation. He emphasized his initial fears and mistakes, making his talk relatable. By connecting personal experiences with universal challenges in language learning, Daniel engaged the audience immediately. As he progressed, Daniel noticed a key pattern. When he used stories and examples, the audience followed more easily. He explained the time he joined the international discussion group online and how he handled idioms, fast speech, and cultural references. He shared humorous moments and small misunderstandings, which made the story entertaining and relatable. By using simple sentences and emphasizing key ideas, he ensured clarity while maintaining an advanced level of language. During the Q&A, the first question surprised him. A student asked about handling communication misunderstandings in real time. Daniel thought quickly and shared an example from the festival when two team members disagreed about the venue layout. He explained how active listening, polite questions, and summarizing each side's ideas helped resolve the conflict. He emphasized that mistakes and misunderstandings are not failures, but opportunities to practice problem-solving and communication skills. Another participant asked, "How do you understand idiomatic expressions and slang so quickly?" Daniel explained his method, listening to context, noting key words, asking for clarification when needed, and practicing phrases in daily conversations. He highlighted that advanced learners must combine reading, listening, and speaking actively rather than relying solely on memorization. A challenging question came from a native speaker. How do you stay confident when speaking to fast, fluent speakers? Daniel paused, recalling moments abroad when he felt overwhelmed. He replied, "Focus on context and key words. Don't try to understand every word immediately. Ask questions politely if needed. Confidence comes from experience and preparation, not perfection." The audience nodded appreciatively, and several participants shared similar experiences. Midway through the talk, Daniel encountered an unexpected challenge. A group of younger students asked a rapid series of questions, speaking quickly and overlapping. For a moment, he struggled to follow, but he applied active listening strategies, focusing on keywords, inferring meaning from context, and confirming details politely. He responded clearly, ensuring each student felt heard. This experience reinforced a critical lesson. Real-life interaction is unpredictable, and adaptability is essential. After the session, several participants approached Daniel to share their own learning stories and ask for advice. They discussed topics such as improving pronunciation, understanding cultural differences, and gaining confidence in public speaking. Daniel enjoyed these conversations because they provided opportunities to reinforce his own learning, practice new vocabulary, and think critically in English. During reflection later that evening, Daniel realized he had achieved something significant. Speaking under pressure, answering fast questions, and engaging with a diverse audience had strengthened not only his fluency, but also his confidence, cultural awareness, and adaptability. He saw that advanced English learning is a holistic process, integrating preparation, practice, reflection, and real-life application. Daniel also recognized the importance of mindset. Viewing challenges as opportunities rather than threats helped him approach difficult situations calmly. Mistakes were treated as lessons, questions as growth opportunities, and unexpected circumstances as practice. This mindset, combined with structured preparation and storytelling, allowed him to perform effectively in high-pressure scenarios. In the days following the event, Daniel applied these lessons to daily life. He participated in spontaneous discussions with classmates, joined online forums, and volunteered for new projects where English was required. Each experience added to his fluency, comprehension, and confidence. He maintained his journal, writing reflections, noting idioms, and summarizing insights from conversations. Daniel also experimented with advanced listening exercises. He listened to podcasts, interviews, and debates with fast speakers, unfamiliar accents, and complex vocabulary. When he encountered challenging expressions, he paused, rewound, and noted meanings. Over time, this practice improved his ability to follow rapid speech, infer meaning, and respond naturally. Another breakthrough came from observing native speakers during casual interactions. He noticed how they used contractions, phrasal verbs, and subtle intonation changes to convey emotion and emphasis. By imitating these patterns in his own speech, Daniel made his English sound more natural and expressive, bridging the gap between textbook knowledge and real-life communication. Daniel's story illustrates a crucial principle for advanced learners. Fluency is not achieved by memorizing vocabulary or grammar alone. It requires active engagement, exposure to diverse situations, cultural awareness, and adaptive thinking. Stories, reflection, and practice form the foundation, but real-life application solidifies understanding and builds confidence. He continued refining his skills through a combination of storytelling, role-playing, and spontaneous conversation. For example, he practiced explaining concepts in English as if teaching someone else, summarizing podcasts orally, or describing daily experiences vividly. These exercises improved clarity, vocabulary, and natural expression. Throughout this period, Daniel noticed the value of resilience. Some days were frustrating. He mispronounced words, misunderstood questions, or struggled with rapid speech. Instead of frustration, he treated these moments as opportunities to analyze mistakes, adjust strategies, and try again. This reflective approach accelerated progress and strengthened self-confidence. In addition, Daniel realized that teaching others reinforced his mastery. He volunteered to guide new learners in public speaking, active listening, and storytelling techniques. Explaining strategies required him to structure thoughts clearly, use precise vocabulary, and model confidence, which in turn enhanced his own abilities. During casual conversations, Daniel experimented with idioms, metaphors, and cultural references he had learned from stories and interactions. He noticed that playful use of language helped him connect with listeners, engage audiences, and practice creativity in English. These experiences highlighted that advanced fluency includes both accuracy and expression. By the end of the month, Daniel reflected on his journey. He could handle fast conversations, complex discussions, public speaking under pressure, cultural misunderstandings, and spontaneous questions, all in English. His thinking in English had become increasingly automatic. Mistakes were no longer intimidating. They were natural steps in his learning process. Daniel also saw that advanced learning involves constant integration. Reading, writing, listening, speaking, cultural awareness, and reflection. Preparation provides confidence, interaction provides practice, reflection provides insight, and immersion ensures growth. Stories, experiences, and challenges are the threads that weave these elements together. He continued to practice daily, combining structured exercises with dynamic experiences. Mornings included reading, journaling, and reviewing vocabulary. Afternoons involved listening, summarizing, and role-playing dialogues. Evenings focused on spontaneous conversation, mentoring, and reflection. Recording himself remained essential for refining pronunciation, fluency, and expressive intonation. Daniel also maintained a creative mindset. He visualized situations, imagined dialogues, and thought critically in English. This approach allowed him to respond quickly, adapt to new contexts, and express nuanced ideas. Thinking directly in English reduced hesitation and improved spontaneity. Through all of these experiences, Daniel internalized a powerful principle. Learning English at an advanced level is a continuous, dynamic process. Fluency requires integration of multiple skills, active engagement, cultural awareness, and resilience. Challenges, mistakes, and unexpected situations are opportunities for growth, not obstacles. Daniel's journey demonstrates that advanced English learners achieve success through a combination of preparation, practice, reflection, and real-life application. Stories, structured exercises, real-life challenges, mentoring, and cultural exposure together create a rich, immersive learning environment. This approach ensures that learners not only understand English, but also think, respond, and express ideas naturally. By embracing challenges, practicing consistently, and reflecting thoughtfully, learners develop confidence, fluency, and adaptability. Daniel's experiences show that advanced English is not about perfection. It is about engaging actively with the language, learning from experiences, and growing continuously. Each day, each conversation, and each story adds a new chapter to a learner's journey, making English a living, evolving skill. A few weeks later, Daniel received an email inviting him to participate in an international video conference. The meeting would include students and young professionals from 6 different countries, all discussing innovative solutions for community development projects. This was a new challenge. He would need to understand multiple accents, respond quickly to complex ideas, and negotiate proposals in English, all through a screen. At first, Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. He knew this would push his listening, speaking, and critical thinking skills to a new level. To prepare, he reviewed his previous notes on active listening, negotiation strategies, and storytelling techniques. He also researched potential cultural nuances, polite expressions, and presentation structures suitable for international audiences. Daniel realized that preparation and anticipation were essential to performing well in high-pressure situations. The morning of the conference, Daniel checked his equipment carefully: internet connection, microphone, camera, and software settings. He made a list of key points he wanted to convey, including ideas about community projects, lessons from his festival experience, and strategies for cross-cultural collaboration. He also practiced summarizing these points in concise, clear sentences, imagining questions that might arise. When the video conference began, Daniel immediately noticed the variety of accents and speaking styles. Some participants spoke quickly with idiomatic expressions, while others had softer tones or unusual phrasing. The discussion opened with introductions, and Daniel practiced active listening carefully, noting each participant's main points and context. He realized that understanding was more important than catching every single word. The first challenge came when a participant suggested a complex proposal about sustainable energy solutions. The explanation included technical terms and fast speech. Daniel focused on keywords, repeated key ideas mentally, and took notes. He also observed visual cues from gestures and slides, which helped him understand the context. By summarizing the main points in his own words, he could respond accurately and confidently. When it was Daniel's turn to speak, he presented his ideas about community engagement, using a story from the festival to illustrate how small initiatives can have meaningful impacts. He emphasized teamwork, listening skills, and adaptive strategies. He spoke clearly, using pauses for emphasis, and monitored reactions from participants to ensure understanding. He noticed nods, smiles, and verbal feedback, all of which indicated that his communication was effective. During the discussion, several participants asked challenging questions. One asked about handling conflicts between team members from different cultures. Daniel shared his experience mediating the venue disagreement during the festival, highlighting strategies such as summarizing concerns, active listening, and suggesting compromises. Another participant asked about adapting communication for audiences with different English proficiency levels. Daniel explained that clarity, simple structures, and context clues were crucial, along with polite follow-up questions when needed. Halfway through the conference, a technical issue occurred. A participant's audio cut out intermittently, making comprehension difficult. Daniel quickly adapted by summarizing what he had heard, confirming understanding with the group, and suggesting that participants repeat critical points. This experience reinforced a key lesson. Flexibility and quick thinking are essential in advanced English communication, especially in dynamic or unexpected situations. Later, a group breakout session required Daniel to collaborate with a smaller team to develop a mini-project proposal. Each member had to contribute ideas and clarify responsibilities. Daniel applied storytelling and structured explanation skills, sharing an example from his journal about using stories to teach lessons effectively. His teammates appreciated his clarity and concise phrasing, which helped coordinate the discussion efficiently. During the breakout session, Daniel noticed another challenge: overlapping speech from teammates with different accents. At first, it was confusing, but he applied strategies he had learned, focusing on keywords, inferring meaning from context, and politely asking for clarification. By repeating or summarizing points aloud, he ensured the team stayed aligned and productive. This reinforced the value of adaptive listening and precise communication. After the breakout, the main session resumed, and Daniel's team presented their proposal. Daniel spoke first, providing a clear overview, highlighting key ideas, and using short stories to illustrate points. He paid attention to intonation, pacing, and emphasis to maintain audience engagement. When questions arose, he listened carefully, paused to think, and responded logically, ensuring clarity and accuracy. One question asked about evaluating the success of proposed projects. Daniel explained a structured approach: set measurable goals, collect feedback, and reflect on outcomes. He shared an example from the festival where volunteer coordination and participant satisfaction were evaluated. By linking theory to practical experience, Daniel made his response relatable and persuasive. Another participant asked how he handled moments of uncertainty or misunderstanding. Daniel replied, "I focus on the main idea, ask polite questions, and repeat information to confirm understanding. I also observe body language and context. Advanced English is not about knowing every word. It's about understanding meaning, adapting, and communicating clearly." His answer sparked further discussion, and several participants shared their own strategies. During the second half of the conference, Daniel faced a particularly fast speaker with a strong accent. The topic was technical, and the speaker used idiomatic expressions and complex vocabulary. Daniel used a combination of predictive listening, context inference, and note-taking. When he responded, he carefully summarized the points, asked confirming questions, and added his insights. The speaker acknowledged his clarity, which boosted Daniel's confidence. Throughout the meeting, Daniel noticed patterns in advanced English communication. He observed how native speakers used intonation to emphasize key ideas, pauses to allow processing, and humor or cultural references to build rapport. By imitating these techniques, Daniel gradually improved his own spoken style, making it more natural, engaging, and culturally sensitive. After the conference ended, Daniel reflected on the experience. He realized that advanced English fluency involves more than vocabulary or grammar. It requires active listening, rapid comprehension, cultural awareness, strategic thinking, and adaptability. Real-life scenarios, such as international meetings, force learners to integrate multiple skills simultaneously. Daniel also recognized the importance of preparation combined with flexibility. Researching topics, anticipating questions, and practicing responses builds confidence, but true mastery comes from adapting in real time, responding to unexpected situations, and applying strategies learned from past experiences. He continued building these skills by participating in online discussions, mentoring peers, and engaging in spontaneous conversations with native and non-native speakers. Each interaction presented new challenges, from idiomatic expressions to overlapping speech, cultural references, and technical vocabulary. Daniel approached these moments with curiosity and resilience, seeing them as opportunities to refine his listening and speaking abilities. Daniel maintained his daily practice routine, balancing structured exercises with real-life application. Reading articles, listening to podcasts, journaling reflections, and engaging in spontaneous conversation reinforced one another. Recording himself remained essential for refining pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. By combining these methods, Daniel strengthened his ability to communicate clearly, confidently, and naturally. Another breakthrough came from reflection. Daniel noticed that he could now predict phrases, anticipate questions, and understand subtle cues in conversation. He no longer needed to translate mentally from his native language. He thought directly in English, forming ideas and sentences spontaneously. This shift marked a significant step toward advanced fluency. Daniel also practiced explaining abstract ideas and complex scenarios clearly. For instance, he could summarize a technical topic in simple language, use examples or metaphors, and answer follow-up questions effectively. This skill was invaluable during conferences, classroom discussions, and mentorship activities. Through these experiences, Daniel realized that mistakes and misunderstandings are not failures. They are learning moments. Each challenge, from overlapping speech to fast speakers, unfamiliar idioms, or technical vocabulary, contributed to growth. Active engagement, reflection, and persistence are the pillars of advanced English mastery. Daniel's journey illustrates a vital principle. Advanced English learning is a dynamic process, combining preparation, practice, interaction, and reflection. Stories, personal experiences, cultural exposure, and real-life challenges create meaningful contexts that reinforce skills. Learners grow not only in fluency, but also in confidence, adaptability, and cultural awareness. By consistently applying strategies such as active listening, summarizing, clarifying, storytelling, visualization, and mentoring, Daniel strengthened both comprehension and expressive abilities. He could participate in high-pressure scenarios, negotiate ideas, resolve conflicts, and communicate effectively across cultures. Daniel also discovered the joy of language. English became not only a tool for communication, but also a medium for connection, creativity, and problem-solving. Every interaction, question, and discussion became an opportunity to practice, learn, and engage deeply. This perspective transformed learning into an exciting, immersive, and practical experience. Even after the conference, Daniel continued challenging himself with advanced tasks, participating in debates, leading workshops, engaging in cross-cultural discussions, and collaborating on international projects. Each experience reinforced fluency, comprehension, and confidence, demonstrating that advanced English is a living, evolving skill, strengthened by continuous practice and real-world engagement. Daniel maintained a growth-oriented mindset. Curiosity, persistence, and reflection guided him. He embraced challenges, valued mistakes as feedback, and sought opportunities for learning in every conversation. This approach allowed him to advance beyond basic fluency toward natural, confident, and expressive communication. Through consistent practice, strategic thinking, and real-life application, Daniel developed a level of English that allowed him to think spontaneously, express ideas clearly, and navigate diverse cultural contexts effectively. Each day added a new chapter to his ongoing learning journey, shaped by effort, curiosity, and meaningful interaction. A few weeks later, Daniel received an invitation to participate in a live international panel discussion hosted by a prominent online platform. The topic was Innovative Solutions for Global Communities, and the panel included experts, professionals, and students from around the world. Daniel felt a mix of excitement and pressure. He knew this would be one of the most demanding challenges he had faced in English so far. To prepare, Daniel revisited his notes, reviewing stories from his festival and international conference experiences. He also researched the topic extensively, learning relevant vocabulary, idiomatic expressions, and technical terms. He prepared key talking points, structured arguments, and examples to illustrate his ideas. Daniel also practiced answering unpredictable questions, imagining different scenarios and audience responses. On the day of the panel, Daniel logged in early to check his microphone, camera, and internet connection. The virtual room was filled with participants from multiple time zones, each speaking with different accents and communication styles. The moderator began with introductions, and Daniel listened carefully, noting pronunciation patterns, pacing, and common expressions. When the discussion started, the first question was posed by a panelist from Europe, asking about integrating sustainable practices into community projects. The speaker used fast, complex English and several technical terms. Daniel focused on keywords, inferred meaning from context, and took brief notes. When responding, he summarized the main points clearly, using simple structures while incorporating some advanced vocabulary he had practiced. He illustrated his ideas with a story about the cultural festival, showing how community engagement could be improved using small, innovative steps. The next question came from a professional from Asia who spoke quickly with a strong accent and included idiomatic expressions Daniel had not heard before. At first, he felt slightly unsure, but he applied the strategies he had learned. Focus on the key idea, infer meaning from context, and ask polite clarifying questions if needed. Daniel repeated part of the question aloud to confirm understanding and then provided a structured response, highlighting key points and offering practical examples. Halfway through the panel, the moderator introduced a challenging scenario. Each panelist had to respond to a hypothetical problem in real time. Daniel was asked to propose a solution for improving communication among international volunteers in a large-scale project. He paused briefly to organize his thoughts, then spoke clearly and confidently. He suggested strategies such as active listening, regular check-ins, clear instructions, and cultural sensitivity training. He supported his ideas with examples from his own experiences, mediating conflicts during the festival, and coordinating the international project team. During the discussion, some panelists spoke at the same time, creating overlapping speech that could be difficult to follow. Daniel used active listening skills, focusing on context, repeating key points mentally, and confirming understanding when appropriate. He spoke slowly when responding, structured his sentences carefully, and used linking phrases like "firstly," "in my experience," and "an effective approach is" to organize his thoughts and maintain clarity. A particularly difficult moment arose when a panelist asked a rapid-fire series of technical questions about community project assessment. Daniel felt a surge of pressure, but recalled past experiences handling fast, complex questions during the international conference. He broke the questions down, responded one at a time, and illustrated each answer with real examples. By staying calm and methodical, he was able to communicate effectively, even under stress. Another moment tested Daniel's cultural awareness. A panelist from South America made a comment using humor and a culturally specific idiom. Daniel paused briefly to ensure he understood the nuance, then responded with a polite, humorous remark that acknowledged the original comment while keeping the conversation professional. This interaction reinforced the importance of cultural sensitivity and the role of context in understanding advanced English. As the panel continued, Daniel noticed patterns in advanced communication. Speakers used tone, pauses, and emphasis strategically, signaling key ideas and indicating transitions. He observed body language and facial expressions, even through a virtual platform, to gauge engagement and understanding. By mimicking these strategies subtly in his own responses, Daniel improved his expressiveness and natural fluency. During a group discussion segment, Daniel was asked to collaborate with panelists to propose a joint initiative for global youth engagement. Each participant contributed ideas quickly, and overlapping speech occurred frequently. Daniel applied a structured approach. He summarized points aloud, suggested compromises, and linked ideas logically. His team appreciated his clear, concise communication and ability to integrate diverse perspectives. After the panel, Daniel reflected on his performance. He realized that advanced English fluency extends beyond vocabulary and grammar. It involves active listening, adaptability, cultural understanding, strategic thinking, and composure under pressure. Handling unpredictable questions, overlapping speech, and idiomatic expressions in real time required integrating all these skills simultaneously. He also recognized the importance of mindset. Approaching challenges with curiosity, patience, and a proactive attitude enabled him to respond confidently, even in high-pressure situations. Mistakes were treated as feedback, misunderstandings as opportunities for clarification, and rapid speech as a stimulus to sharpen listening skills. In the following days, Daniel continued practicing advanced skills. He listened to fast-paced debates, interviews, and podcasts with multiple speakers, taking notes and summarizing main points. He participated in online discussion groups where overlapping speech and different accents challenged his comprehension and response speed. Each session reinforced his ability to think directly in English and communicate clearly. Daniel maintained a daily routine, combining structured practice with real-world application. He read articles on community development and international projects, wrote summaries and reflections, and engaged in spontaneous conversations online. He also recorded himself, analyzing pronunciation, intonation, pacing, and expressiveness. This consistent cycle of practice, reflection, and real-life engagement strengthened both fluency and confidence. A significant realization came when Daniel mentored junior learners preparing for international presentations. Explaining strategies for listening, summarizing, and responding to questions required clarity, organization, and precision. Teaching reinforced his own skills, as he had to think critically and structure responses effectively in real time. Daniel also explored creative thinking in English. He imagined hypothetical scenarios, developed dialogues, and visualized conversations with international audiences. This practice improved spontaneity, clarity, and adaptability. Thinking directly in English without translating from his native language became a natural habit, enhancing fluency and confidence. Through these experiences, Daniel understood that mistakes and challenges are essential components of advanced learning. Mispronunciations, misunderstood idioms, and rapid speech all provided opportunities to refine comprehension and response strategies. He approached each interaction as a chance to learn, grow, and strengthen both listening and speaking skills. Daniel's story illustrates the multifaceted nature of advanced English learning. Fluency is not achieved by memorizing vocabulary or grammar alone. It requires integration of listening, speaking, reading, writing, cultural understanding, reflection, and real-life application. Stories, personal experiences, and immersive challenges create meaningful contexts that reinforce learning. By consistently applying strategies like active listening, summarizing, clarifying, storytelling, visualization, and mentoring, Daniel developed confidence, expressive communication, and cultural awareness. He could handle high-pressure scenarios, manage overlapping conversations, negotiate ideas, resolve conflicts, and communicate effectively across diverse audiences. Daniel also discovered the joy of advanced English. Beyond grammar and vocabulary, language became a tool for connection, problem-solving, creativity, and engagement. Every discussion, question, and interaction was an opportunity to practice, learn, and deepen understanding. This perspective transformed advanced learning into an exciting, immersive, and practical experience. Even after the panel, Daniel sought new challenges, leading virtual workshops, participating in debates, collaborating on international projects, and mentoring students in active communication. Each experience reinforced comprehension, fluency, and confidence, demonstrating that advanced English is a dynamic, evolving skill developed through continuous practice and meaningful interaction. Daniel maintained a growth mindset. Curiosity, persistence, reflection, and adaptability guided him. He embraced challenges, valued mistakes as feedback, and sought opportunities to apply skills in real-life scenarios. This approach allowed him to move beyond basic fluency to confident, natural, and expressive English communication through structured practice, real-life application, and reflection. Daniel developed the ability to think spontaneously, express complex ideas clearly, and navigate diverse cultural and linguistic contexts. Each day added a new chapter to his ongoing learning journey, shaped by effort, curiosity, and meaningful engagement. Daniel realized that advanced English is not a final destination, but a continuous journey. Each conversation, presentation, and interaction offers a chance to improve fluency, comprehension, and cultural understanding. By embracing challenges, staying reflective, and practicing consistently, learners can achieve natural, confident, and effective communication in English.